Okay, here is the Theseus Study Guide review session. Just a disclaimer, if you hear something in the background, it's Sadie playing with a toy that makes noise. Okay, so the first question asks you to examine the paragraph that begins years before his arrival in Athens, and there's the paragraph. So what's the purpose of this one paragraph in connection to the whole story? So why was this one paragraph here when I zoom out and think about the story as a whole? To provide another step in the plot structure of the hero's journey. So Theseus is our hero. Does this say anything about Theseus? No, it doesn't. So it's not that. To provide a flashback in order to explain why Athens was sending tributes. Well, that's true, but let's just make sure there's not anything else. To provide a flashback, okay. And to order to explain why Pasiphae is in love with the Minotaur. That's not even in this passage. To introduce us to Daedalus and the Labyrinth, also not in this passage. So the answer is B. Number 2, read these lines from the myth. You pitiable wretch, trying to make me betray my father. I feel polluted by merely hearing such words. Oh, women, vile women, every one of them vile. I'll never enter this house again except when my father's in it. He flung away the nurse. Look at these lines. Look at these adjectives. Remember, that's always something to pay attention to. You pitiable wretch, trying to make me betray my father. I feel polluted by merely hearing such words. Oh, women. Here's an adjective. What kind of women? Vile women. Every one of them vile. So not just Phaedra. Every one of them. Vile, if you don't know, look. Synonyms. Dreadful, despicable, abhorrent. I always remember it as evil because it's got the same 4 letters. Okay. So what is his tone? So we always look at the word choice to figure out the tone because tone means them. So tone equals them. And in this case, Hippolytus is the them. We've already annotated pitiable, vile. I feel polluted. So he's not real thrilled. So let's look at our choices. Scornful, okay, that may be. Let's just check out the other ones. Jubilant, no, he is not jubilant. Consoling, no, he is not consoling anyone. He's flung away the nurse. Content means all is right with the world. I'm happy with what I have. Definitely not describing Hippolytus at this moment. Part B, based on the story, based on the myth, what does he mean by these lines? Well, what does he mean? He's real mad. He means that he pretty much hates women. He finds the gender abhorrent. He's not even going to come back to his house unless his dad's there. Okay. Next question. What theme, well, I know theme means message. It's the dialogue I'm having in my head. Theme is a lesson or a message. What message is suggested by the reception Theseus receives upon his first arrival in Athens? So it's asking you to remember what was his reception. They were thrilled with him. They were so excited he was there. He had rid the road of the banes to the travelers. And we have to then remember, okay, they're thrilled he's there. They're thrilled because of what he did. What is it that he did? He got rid of all the travelers. So they're happy about him being a hero. They're happy of him that he killed the banes to them, the evil people. And then we have to remember, how did he do that? Okay, he did that by stretching the stretcher, by kicking off the guy that had been kicking off people. So they must really like that form of justice. So let's look at our choices. Note to self, look at all that thinking that I did before I even looked at my choices. If you're not thinking that long about something, then you're not thinking enough. Okay. It takes a hero to know a hero. Are all of them heroes in Athens? No. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, that's like be nice to other people because you would like for them to be nice to you. Well, that's not really what he was doing. Self preservation, so that means keeping myself safe, is the best form of longevity and justice. Well, that may be a great way to live a long time, but I don't know if that's justice. So if it's not everything in the option, then it can't be the option. True justice is treating people the way they have treated other people. Well, there we go. He stretched the stretcher, Procrustes. He flung the people on the trees, the guy on the tree that had been flinging people on the trees. So it's D. What does the use of the word bane suggest in this excerpt below? It can be imagined how Greece rang with the praises of the young man. This is what the previous question was asking us about. It can be imagined how Greece rang with the praises of the young man who cleared the land of these banes to travelers. So they're happy that he cleared the road of these banes, so banes must be bad people. This question has two parts. It is the last question. First part A, then part B. In my opinion, this is the hardest question. Excuse me. Okay. How is the structure or the arrangement of sentences of paragraph 2 different from the structure for paragraph 1? So it's already telling you that there's a difference. And it's asking you, how is 2 different than number 1? The arrangement, the way it's structured. So let's look at paragraph 1. Aegeus then proclaimed to the country that Theseus was his son and heir. The new heir apparent soon had an opportunity to endear himself to the Athenians. So that was like real time, quote unquote, of the story. It ends with the new heir apparent, so that's Theseus, soon had an opportunity to endear himself to the Athenians. So if my thoughts are, this is leading up to hinting towards how he's about to endear himself. So this is like the lead in, setting the scene to Theseus endearing himself. All right, let's look at the next one. Paragraph 2. Years before his arrival in Athens, so years before Theseus's arrival, so we were just in real time, so now we're flashing back. Years before his arrival in Athens, a terrible misfortune happened to the city. Minos, powerful ruler of Crete, had lost his only son Androgenes. While the young man was visiting the Athenian king, King Aegeus had done what no host should do. He sent his guests on an expedition full of peril to kill a dangerous bull. Instead, the bull killed the youth. Minos invaded the country, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so just before I look at my choices, I go back to my question. How is the arrangement of paragraph 2 different from the structure of paragraph 1? So one thing that's different, paragraph 2 is a flashback because paragraph 1 was in real time. Okay, I noticed that paragraph 1 kind of set the scene for Theseus endearing himself. And that was at the end of that paragraph. So this is all about the structure and the arrangement of sentences. So let me look at the end of paragraph 2. Minos invaded the country, captured Athens, and declared that he would raise it to the ground unless every 9 years the people sent him a tribute of 7 maids and 7 youths. Okay, that's kind of setting up something too, but let's just see what our choices are. Paragraph 2 ends by foreshadowing what will happen next. Well, it does give a hint about what would happen next, because what's going to happen next is the idea of the tributes. Theseus is going to go as one of the tributes. Paragraph 2 serves to explain why Theseus would have an opportunity to be a hero. Okay, I'm keeping that in the running because that was one of my original thoughts when I was annotating and thinking out loud about it. Paragraph 2 describes the character's thoughts and actions in between dialogue. First of all, there's no dialogue in paragraph 1 or 2. That's not that. Paragraph 2 introduces the reason why Poseidon created the Minotaur. Minotaur is not even in paragraph 2. So let's get rid of those. So we've got it down to A or B. Paragraph 2 ends by foreshadowing what will happen next. So if that's true, then paragraph 1 wouldn't end by foreshadowing what will happen next, because they're asking us what is different. So even if we were unsure if right here is actually foreshadowing, it can't be A, because it's asking us what's different about paragraph 2. And we know paragraph 1 is ending with a hint about what's going to happen next. So it's got to be B. That's how it's structured differently, because it's structured as a flashback. So part B asks you a follow-up to part A. Which aspect, now that's a word that these tests love to use. It's a fancy word, and look, I did this on purpose. Synonyms, feature, what part. So what part of the passage, which part of the passages is affected by this difference in structure? So we know the difference in structure is that paragraph 2 is a flashback, and it explains why Theseus has this opportunity to be a hero. So what part of the passages is affected by this difference in structure? What part of it, and like part of a passage could be its purpose, and that's why this is tricky. And honestly, I think these kind of questions should say, like, what was the purpose of that difference? But that's not the way these tests phrase it. So if I phrased it that way, then you're not going to be prepared for when a test does phrase it with this word aspect, which I find awkward. So, which aspect, which part of the passages is affected by the difference in structure? So what part of the passage is affected by this difference in structure? What's the effect of this difference? What about the purpose is affected? Because that can be part of the passage. It's purpose. I know, it's so weird. Okay. How the reader imagines the stories will end. Okay, because of this difference between these two paragraphs, does that difference all of a sudden make you think like, oh, I wonder how this whole story's going to end? No, it doesn't. It sounds nice, but it's not going to all of a sudden serve as a catalyst and make you think about the ending of the whole entire myth. Weird. Okay, does this difference, and we have to remember again, the difference is that the flashback explaining, does this difference, the flashback, affect how you, the reader, understand why King Aegeus has to send the tribute? Yes, it does, because it's a flashback, I am understanding why he has to send tributes every 9 years. So I'm keeping B in the running. The number of ways myth can be understood. Well, you have to think, what is myth? Myth explains the unexplainable to the Greek people. Is this explaining the unexplainable to them? No, this is explaining why there was a tribute. I don't know. I'll keep it in the running. Does this difference, that one's a flashback, explain how the reader knows what the characters are thinking? No, we don't know what any characters are thinking. There is no internal dialogue. This is another thing that sounds good, but you have to ask yourself every time, can I find a piece of proof for this? Can I go and find a triangle, a piece of proof that proves that this shows that characters are thinking something? No. So you've got it down to B or C. The answer is B. It does, for sure. I could find a piece of proof that would give an example as to why I am able now to understand why King Aegeus must send the tribute. And I understand that because the structure of the two paragraphs is different, because the second one's a flashback. Okay. Email me with questions. Bye.